computer.
Can you
Is
hear
it
me now?
me or is it you?
Can you hear me? I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, wait. Let me turn my volume up.
There we are. Test, test, one, two,
Okay.
three. Okay. No, that's
Forgot I
good.
turned the volume down the other day.
No, that's good.
Good
Okay.
morning.
Wow. I just opened. Let me.
Oh, that thing I transferred just now?
Wow.
I know.
Okay.
I didn't really journal a whole lot. I just started jotting things down in my journal about names and parts and lists and blah blah blah. And I spent most of my time on this
Yeah.
PowerPoint.
Um,
And it dawned on me that, oh, I could make each page is a part and I'll start from
oh,
burn.
aren't you good? Okay. I just pulled it. Do you want a screen share? Do you want me to, or I'm looking at it
Oh,
right?
oh no, yeah, you can. So you can, if you have questions, you can go through it like that. I'm only halfway through.
Now can
But,
I screen share since you started?
oh,
Yes, you can. Yeah.
before we get into that, can I ask you a favor question?
Sure.
I want to be friends. I know that Chris doesn't like me being friends with men, particularly on the internet, because that was his big issue with Alan Watt. Even though I didn't really interact with Alan, he didn't like me just being connected to another man.
Yeah. No.
So anyway, I told Scott, I didn't tell him that, but I said I need to talk to my husband first before we do a Zoom, and make sure he's comfortable with it. And I did bring it up to Chris and he his back got up a little bit and he says, well, I said, I'll give you some time to think about it. You don't have to answer right now. And it's been probably less than a week, but can I say to him that you think it would be good for me to...
Sure. I think it'd be excellent for you because you two are
Okay.
researchers.
Okay, good. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
outside
No,
of the Alan Watts stuff, I mean, because we started chatting about, I mean, we've been chatting a lot back and forth through email. And I yesterday wrote this big long email. I started getting into a little details of the SRA and so he started getting a little bit into it as well. But when I went to send it, I lost it. And I was just like, are you kidding me? So I just sent him a quick email. I said, look, I just sent this whole long email. I lost it. I said, how about we just set up a Zoom? And he
yeah,
responded back and said, well, let's get your husband's permission
there you
first.
go. Yeah. But
So
you can let
I just wanted to know if I could use you.
by all means, let Chris know
Okay.
if I suspected anything. I never would have
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, even
Okay.
connected the two of you. No, you two are on this kind of on the same page as far as research and interest for your own selves about Masonic stuff and symbols,
Yeah.
and you have the same person in common. And
Well,
so
I
I just
found it,
haven't.
yeah, I found it fascinating. To tell me, he said that he was more on he was raised to, he didn't say it this way, but this is kind of what I got out of it, which is why I'd rather Zoom with him, um, is that he was more or less trained to be a perp. And now that he's of an age where they're expecting that and he's kind of pulled away, that they're trying to sabotage his life because,
Mhm.
if he starts to remember, he could put them in jail. Basically, he didn't say it like that, but that's what I got. And I thought, wow, I never thought about it from that side of the equation. So I just thought, well, I could really learn a lot from him, and I think he could learn a lot from me. And he did tell me, he said he did not know that it was normal to have memories of your childhood. And so that was like big bells for me going off saying, dude, if you've blocked out your whole childhood, there's a reason, because that's what I did. Except his difference is he's had them his whole life, and my mom divorced at 11, so mine kind of stopped, or my
Yeah, I really
experiences.
think
So,
so. The answer is yes. Feel
okay,
free to
good.
tell Chris,
Thanks.
and I really do think he can provide then a great deal of information because his parents are so into the Masonic stuff.
Yeah,
that they
just the
are,
other side of the equation.
yeah, they're retiring into a Masonic village or whatever in Elizabethtown,
I didn't
Pennsylvania.
even know that existed, but I suppose
Look
it
that up,
would. Why wouldn't it? They've got the
right?
money, right?
They have a whole continuum of care, but it's called, oh, and they have a foster care or a group home, residential treatment for abused
Of
kids in
course
the
they do.
foster on grounds,
Of course. Just so they can have their supply of children.
right? So I
Unreal.
think it'll be a great research. I mean, the two of you together, since again, the common denominator was Alan Watt.
Yeah, yeah. I,
Yeah.
I,
So tell Chris, I think it will enhance both of your research.
okay, good. Yeah, no, I don't even know if it's about research. Just I want to just start talking to another human who's had similar experience in that particular SRA world. You know what I mean? Whatever side or area that he was in. So
Yeah.
that's because right now, there's not. I don't know. Did I tell you I told him I had a need for something in my research for Alan Watts' site that was lacking that I've put on my plate to do. I said, but I don't really have time right now. Um, and he said, well, I love that particular series of shows. I'd be more than happy to do it. So I taught him how to do this thing. And he's just so excited about it. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, Alan did a talk show. He was a guest on a talk show called Sweet Liberty back in 2004, 5, and 6.
Was that with the gal that keeps getting phone calls into her studio? I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah, yeah.
during the okay, yeah,
During the
because
cut, yeah, it
yeah,
was
so
like shortwave radio at the
oh, that
time.
was it. That was it. So I heard you.
Yeah, and so, but Alan discussed a lot about religion, the mystery religions, the ancient stuff, more so then than he did later. And the thing is no one was around at that time. Melissa didn't show up until like a year after the fact. When Melissa started, living with Alan, he would do his talk and she would jot down the topics he discussed. And then they'd post them on the website, and we call those the show notes.
Yeah,
So that's how we search for a topic. Like if I want to talk about Bertrand Russell, all I have to do is search and I can find it. But there's this black hole when it comes to the Sweet Liberties because there's no show notes. And so, he goes, this is what he said in his email. He goes, listen to Sweet Liberty and take notes, twist my arm. So, so he's doing that now. I taught, he did a little sample. He did like a half-hour show and did a little sample and sent it to me. And I critiqued it and showed him what to cut out and what to keep and whatever. And he's like, oh, great, brilliant. I can do that. So that's really what we've been talking about mostly until the other day. So yeah, he's so excited. He goes, I'm flattered to be a part of it. He goes, and I feel good that I can give back
that's right.
something, because Alan gave so much to me. I said, I know that's how I always felt about it. I always thought, that he gave me better than a university education. So, far be it for me, I'll pay for it doing transcripts. You know, I always felt like I wanted to earn it. I didn't want to just take it.
Yeah,
So, I'm glad that he feels the same way. So, but
that's
anyway, that's that.
um,
But yeah, I guess we could screen share that document.
are you
Let
gonna
me,
you want to screen share it on your end?
yeah, I always have to, takes me a minute to figure this out. Okay, so share. So now, yeah, so I decided each time I update it,
That's
I'll
phenomenal. What a great idea.
save it as a new thing. So yeah, it completely morphed. I actually made this outside circle larger.
Oh, look at
But
you. Okay, what do we got here? Wow.
when you print it, you lose the outside pieces. So I had to kind of squish it down. Otherwise, everything would be even and round. Perfect. But that
You know,
well, it doesn't have to be.
And it's phenomenal that you are.
I've been obsessed with this since we had our
Oh,
last
good.
session.
Good, right? Because
I
it's
spent
really,
like 6 hours that after the
yeah,
session,
yeah.
almost all day Saturday, all day Sunday, all day yesterday. It's like my parts wake up excited to do
Right,
it.
there you go. That
I'm like,
um,
wow.
so two things are phenomenal. One is the fact that you have retained then the different versions, because that I
Yeah.
you need to
Yeah.
add that in your show so you can help people understand exactly what you experienced. It's like, well, I thought it was like this, but then I started to know. So that
You
shows
start
an
to question it and like, well, how does that work with that? And et
that's right.
cetera. And yeah,
Now
it
let me ask
evolves.
let me ask you a question for I'm getting back into taping with Emma tonight. It'll be shown.
Oh, fun.
Would I be able to, without, I'm not going to identify, and
Uh-huh.
I'm not going to let people see much because I don't want to steal your thunder, but to show people kind of an example of.
Sure,
So,
by all means. Yeah.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
I'll probably show them from this distance, just so they can see what you're putting together. I'll get the other gal's permission. Well, she's already given me permission, but I'll get her permission. Just so people can see, again, a
But
couple of
there's
different,
different structures, different layouts, because I thought to
absolutely.
myself, well, if I made an apartment complex, how would it be?
Yeah, no, it's got a, right,
And
everybody.
and somehow it's just I don't like the idea of the squares.
Mhm.
So it's got to be
Well,
circles.
and this fits very much, with that, the chart that I put together, the kind of the groupings.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
kind of Yeah, everybody has a similar, in those groupings, kind of everybody has a similar mission or goal or
Yeah,
task.
and that suits my personality because I like to sort and organize. So of course my brain's going to do the same thing. So I thought that was
You've
interesting.
been,
And I had another rev. I've had like a
yeah,
thousand revelations.
good.
But one was that I don't know if you've had a chance to watch that second interview I did with Melissa. It's like two.
I've gotten partway through the first one now.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, and the second one, the first hour and a half, it's 2.5 hours. The first hour and a half is basically about me going to Texas and helping her organize her house. It was her mom and dad's house. They've both passed, and she needed to remove their stuff and bring her stuff in. So it's basically just reorganizing their home. Now, I've done this for my husband's mom, my mom, my sister's business twice. I just have this ability to take physical things that are in chaotic state and clear out the crap, sort and organize it and put things in an efficient way. For whoever's going to be in that space, they can live in it comfortably and efficiently. And I can do it really quickly. And Melissa called me a force of nature when I was there. And I thought, oh, okay, well, that must be Wizzy, right? Because she took made the tornado with the leaves,
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And created, there's chaos. Then what she did just, bam, stopped it and put it in its place. And it hit me that, oh my God, that's what I'm doing with my brain and my parts. Now that they're not hidden anymore, I get to sort and organize it
There we
all.
go.
And it's
Which,
not just about sorting and organizing. It's like when you find like items, well, first you throw it all together in the same room. It might not be where you want it, but it's
there we
in
go.
the room you want it in. And then once you get done with, emptying out all the places need emptied out, and you've got all these rooms that have piles that need to be sorted. So you go into each room and you sort it and you put it in the drawer, in the cabinet, in the cupboard, wherever the place is most effective. And I thought it hit me. I thought, oh my God, that's what I'm doing with all these parts.
Sure. That's
It's
right.
like Trish pulled the wall down and said, okay, here you go. Right? Here's
There
this
we go.
big mess of shit. Figure it out. And
Yeah.
then you suggesting the timeline and a map, it's like you gave me the structure to do it within, but now my brain is just,
Yeah.
just doing it.
I'll tell you what I love is exactly as you're referencing it. I'm seeing the categories, and it's so interesting how our minds work because we really do, and what's so valuable about this is the more someone understands this, then any quote unquote psychological issue, any emotional issue can
Uh-huh.
be tackled, right? Because
I
somebody's getting
know.
in touch with different facets of themselves in different arenas. Like, okay, I feel sad today. Okay, so within the sadness, what is going on? And so it's continuing to go deeper and deeper, and that's what you're doing,
Hmm. Hmm.
categorizing beautifully.
Yeah, and I found more parts.
There you go. There you go.
If you could tell. Now I should probably just do the ones I want to avoid the most first.
Okay.
Is here's this one, wrist. This was a time when Chris and I were having an argument and he grabbed my arm, my wrist,
Gosh.
and he hurt it badly.
Yeah.
And I was pissed off at him. And it was after I had done the punch thing, years, maybe 2, 3, 4 years later. And I thought, you know what? It hurt so badly after a couple days. I went to the doctor to make sure it wasn't broken. And when I was there, and it's in this arena because Blue will talk and Trip will talk. They're the rebels. They want to talk. They want to tell the world. And so I told the doctor what happened and that it was a domestic violence issue. I said, because I wanted to have it recorded somewhere in
For
case
you. Oh, that's
Chris
right.
didn't get his shit together, I would
Yeah.
at least have one piece of proof,
No, very
right?
smart. Very smart.
And when I came back home, I told him about it. I said, you need to understand. I told the doctor exactly how this happened. You need to get your shit together.
Good for you.
So that's who wrist
Did
is.
it seem like a wake-up call to him?
And so, yeah, he was shocked. He was quite shocked. So, yeah. Um, and
Good.
this choke, it's, it's exactly what the picture shows you. This is in the first, I think, maybe we were in our third year or so. He was in the peak of his withdrawals. He was, I think it was around the time he raged. Zombie was created for the 16 hours or whatever, but something happened. We were in the bathroom. I think we didn't have sex, but we were in there for some reason near the shower. I remember we were both dressed, but somehow there was a conflict right there, and he turned around and he grabbed me and he shoved me against the wall and he had his hands around my throat. And honestly, I forgot about this until I was doing this math. But he held he choked me until I literally was like, ooh, ooh, that sound you make when you're needing air, but you can't get it. I mean, I was that close. And in that moment, he let go. And I remember he was drunk, of course, and he walked off. And I remember standing there. And because I had been oxygen deprived, I became lightheaded. And I remember having to turn around and walk and follow him because I was still kind of in a hyper alert, vigilant state where I needed to make sure of where he was. But the thing that went through my mind, and I guess maybe it's the Stockholm syndrome, or I don't know what, I haven't quite figured it out yet, but a part inside of me said, oh my God, do you realize the restraint that he used?
Oh, that is the Stockholm syndrome. Oh
You
gosh.
should be dead. And I remember thinking, well, fuck that. He shouldn't be fucking doing it at all. But that
Do
part that was
you know what
kind of
part? Do you know what part
overrode
said?
me.
Do you know what part said that?
I don't. I'd
Hey,
have to like really dig into it. I think when
and
I do
now
a
what'll
page
be
on that,
yeah, what'll be important because it probably that part probably just perked up because it remember.
maybe Sarge.
Okay, so what'll be important when you
Or
begin
Joker, because Joker strangled people to death, so he knows what it takes.
Okay, so as you tap into whichever part, it'll be important with this specific memory.
Hmm.
Let's say it almost sounds like, well, I don't know, you're gonna have right. Let's say Sarge Joker. Um, it'll be important at that moment as you're tapping into that in a way, though how you responded to them is perfect in the moment, but now during the debriefing
Right, right.
they were having to, this is interesting, they were having to deal with their own trauma in the moment, and they automatically then did the Stockholm syndrome because
Yeah.
they're taught that. So, which is to place all the responsibility on the victim, none on the perpetrator. So,
Right.
as that part starts to reflect on that moment in that moment that day that you've just brought up, it'll be important, right? Because if they tap into then what they said to you in that moment, there's going to be some guilt, like, what the hell was I saying to myself? How did I come
Yeah.
so quickly to flip the script and put it on Diana, on us? So, that'll be important for them to realize, what, that was just a very automatic, almost trained. So it's interesting,
Oh
but
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that,
Definitely conditioned.
yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. There you go. But good.
Honestly, my first impression was that it was because I've been thinking about this for 2 or 3 days now. And when I went out, and I don't know if I told you, but when I work on the torso, not only am I hitting it with a bat and using the rubber knives, but I found this old piece of, those things that boxers use to wrap around their hands,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
they put it in the glove. Well,
yeah.
Chris had one of those, but it's kind of old and at the ends had like frayed off. But I thought, ooh, Joker got all excited. He's like, I could strangle it with that thing. So, because I thought Chris is never going to use it again. And so we've been strangling that thing. And I literally
Good,
stand up on the base of it and I get above and just fucking kill it. I kill it and holler.
good,
Joker.
beautiful.
And I think because I'm tapping into Joker and then I remembered the choke thing, that it might have been Joker saying, do you know the restraint that it took for him to not kill you? Because Joker took it all the way to the kill zone when he choked somebody out.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think it was maybe him, but
Yeah,
I
and
is that
okay, on the one hand, he would be correct if, so here's the key, if he was coming from Joker's perspective, but
right. Right, but
unfortunately,
he
Chris,
wasn't.
Chris was being a drunken, selfish pig at the point.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
there's a difference. So
yeah.
that's not so much, look at how
So,
much
so then
restraint,
I'm
but look
thinking
at,
maybe somebody in here because these guys were all tortured and were told it was their own fault.
okay, there you go.
It's stretch and pins. Well, it's your own fault that you're being punished, or like
There you
Kathy
go.
being
Yeah,
drowned,
and
or
that's classic what perps do, right? I wish,
yeah,
why do you make me do this to you kind of thing.
exactly.
Oh
Oh, and
God.
I
Yeah.
just realized there's two more parts here.
What
When
part
I
do you want to just take a note? Do you want to add something right now?
uh
Well,
yeah,
right
well, when
there.
I started doing these little pieces here,
That
I
is so
realized
much.
there was a
Look at you.
space that was missing something.
Okay, look at you. Diane, this is
So
phenomenal. I want you to know.
So this is owie and hands.
Okay,
Now,
I'm sorry. I thought you were saying all of a sudden you remembered there were two more. So no, you're saying that.
oh no, while
Yeah,
I was doing this. This
yeah.
is part of the work I did for like 32 hours for
Yeah,
the past 4 days.
you're writing your
So
own book, by the way.
yeah, so there's Blue. You know the story of her. Satan is or Lucifer is that evil character that, showed up during that baptism for Blue. He tells me to do bad things, etc.
Okay, now let me
Hands
go back for a moment.
here.
So when you are referencing Lucifer, are you actually referencing a part or you're referencing?
I think like both. It's just
Okay,
I first Lucifer, like this little pet point here. He's the evil character within me that tells me to do bad
there we
things,
go. Now I just read.
treat
Okay,
people
so
badly, cheat, steal, and lie. He's
okay,
always there to tempt and taunt me. aggravates and antagonizes.
Okay, now here's an interesting thought just to kind of ponder for today after we're finished.
Mm-hmm.
My recommendation is, um, the name obviously is so closely tied, but it would be interesting to start. Oh, this will be an interesting challenge, right? Not so much challenge to you, but in your own processing,
Uh-huh.
to begin to make contact with him so that you can, because he's a wounded kid, quite frankly.
Oh, yeah, okay. So
And
I
so,
would probably need a separate part.
or a new name, meaning, I'll
Yeah.
tell you, what, I saw reference something that she did that was just super. In her own drawings, she realized, and it's a brilliant way to put it, she realized it's almost like they had been forced to take on to
A
do
demon.
or ready a suit, kind of zip it up, step in the suit and a suit and zip it up, and that's what they were
Okay.
wearing. They were never given a choice.
Yes,
And
yes.
so the idea of asking them, okay, getting at what the private logic is, and with Lucifer here, this person, this part, okay,
Mm-hmm.
there's going to be a lot of anger. There's going to be a lot of misguided loyalty. Now, you can't say that to someone because, right, their loyalty is they
Right.
think, right? But very much Stockholm syndrome in a way. But um, one question to ask him, okay, he may be listening right now. One question to ask him is, did he, was he really okay with what they did to the little ones in this sense? How did he feel as he was watching that? And he may say, well, I liked it, I took it. But the question, even just before that, a step before that, wasn't he stepping in initially to try to take some of the punishment or take some of it away from the victims? So if he can tap into that, meaning the reason he's there was protective. Now, what does somebody do without outrageous rage? It feels like I'm burning like the devil. I have all this intense rage. So it would be very easy
Oh,
for him
yeah.
to feel like he's the devil. But so it's worth processing with him in this sense. The burning rage is really about what? Now, at first, it's I hate her. She's so weak. But what's happening is he's defended against the real sense of helplessness. He couldn't stop them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah,
Think
yeah.
about how much rage he has and what what a session he would have with the torso and the bat,
Yeah, yeah. I think,
because that's the kind of rage that's the righteous rage.
well, and
That,
I think this because he was born at the same time Blue was. Like
okay,
almost
so he was trying to help Blue. He
almost
was
right
engaged.
after. He was the one
There.
fighting
Okay,
under the blood.
so without knowing it, the perps thought he was stupid, that he could never figure out that he's not Lucifer. He has the rage, but righteous rage. We should call him Gabriel
Oh,
or
okay.
Michael the Archangel. Michael the Archangel kicks butt, by the way, right?
I've heard that, yeah.
he's in charge of heaven's armies.
Didn't he was the one that beat Lucifer in a fight or something, right?
Eventually, right? Because
Yeah.
you got the three archangels. He fought the Prince of Persia. So there's entities over different
Oh, okay. Okay.
continents, as over different countries. But it'll be interesting since he's listening to us now. See, that makes total sense. So, what are they doing to Blue? They're taking an infant and they're
And
drowning this.
drowning it in blood. And
There you
then,
go.
calling on demons to come possess this baby.
There you go. And you know what? Oh, ready?
Yeah.
Lucifer protected that from happening.
Oh, wow. So he shouldn't look like a devil then.
Well, but he's going to have to
But he
give
thinks
you,
he is.
that's right. So he's going to have to give you permission to help identify what picture, what he's going to really look like.
Okay.
But that was so invaluable, Diana, because when you said, little Blue was doing this, it was him.
Under the water, yeah, she was
That's right.
just
That is a
fighting.
protective thing.
Oh,
So
wow.
Lucifer
Okay.
is not protective, he's exploitive.
Well, and
But
I remember Blue, I guess maybe it was Lucy here.
okay,
I felt
I
it was
like that.
almost like electricity
Yeah, yeah.
going through her body, just fighting and wiggling
There
and
you go, which you can imagine the myelin sheath thing is because it's still not mature. I like the name Lucy. But so the actual devil, right? The devil is exploitive. Lucy,
there's Lucy. Okay.
okay, Lucy was protective and
Okay.
enraged.
She was
Well,
just very much enraged. Yeah,
there
so
you go.
it was a split two ways
There,
instantly.
there.
The
So
innocent part and the furious part.
So now Lucy has a choice. But here's the thing
Wow.
for Lucy to think about. They never thought Lucy was smart enough to figure this out. They thought she was stupid.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you're right, huh? Wow.
I'm so glad we talked about that. That's right. Okay.
Okay, well, hang on. Let me change this here. See, I have a line going to Blue and to
Yeah. Yeah. See,
Courtney.
that makes total sense. So
Okay, all
Lucy
right.
was that young part to step in as they were harming
Sorry.
Blue.
Oh my goodness.
And
Yeah, I never thought of
she's
it.
got all that rage, which is a wonderful thing, right? That's the imprecatory nuke 'em, right? She wants to nuke everybody. Well, that's a beautiful rage. We ought to call it,
Okay.
that's a great phrase. I'm going to start using beautiful rage. It is.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, she would love Isaiah 59 and Isaiah 63. Um,
Okay.
Jesus nukes him when he comes in. He's got blood splattered all over in Isaiah 63. So they're really duplicates. And so in Isaiah 63, it says, whoa, kind of like they're shocked because here comes a guy in white robes, but splattered with blood. And he says, whoa, it's almost like this pretend dialogue. Who is this that comes from Basra? That he says, I'll tell you who it is. And what's powerful, he says, I looked for somebody to help the oppressed, and I didn't find any, and I was appalled, so I did it myself. So Lucy has that kind of righteous indignation, that kind of righteous rage. That's
Wow.
beautiful.
Okay. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna put that on there.
There you go. There you go.
Because Alan used to talk about righteous indignation.
Absolutely. You could even, if you want, beautiful rage. Oh, it's a beautiful thing. You go in and you just nuke them. And that's part of, I really do. Lord, let your glory shine upon the earth. It's like this
Mhm.
nuclear blast part of it. Absolutely it
Yeah.
is.
Wow.
Because
Okay.
here's the interesting thing. There's when there's a new heaven and a new earth, there's still going to be two things from the past. Very interesting. One is the scars in Jesus' hands and feet, the nail prints.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so those will always be there forever. How do we know? Because he has a glorified body and they're there, right? When he told
Yeah.
Thomas, hey, touch my hand, see. Okay, so Jesus's body will always have those as a reminder of how much he cares about us. But
Mm-hmm.
then in the book of Revelation and the last part of Revelation, the last part of the book of Isaiah talks about how the saints will be able to see the smoke of their torment, the perps, going up day and night.
Oh, yeah. I'll
Okay,
tell
so
you.
that's always going to be there. So it's
Yeah.
a constant reminder of how God honors our pain forever. It's a
Cool.
beautiful concept.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's neat.
Oh, so I'll be interested to find out what picture, if the picture changes over time. But that's beautiful. The
Probably
fire,
will.
absolutely. So Lucy stepped in to save Blue.
Oh, wow. Okay. And then, here's file clerk down here, but I felt like there was something missing, and then all of a sudden these guys popped up. when I was so probably after we got home from that, thing, the blood baptism, my dad started as I was an infant, he would come into the room, like the changing table or pretend to change me, but he would put fingers into my mouth or my vagina or my anus, and he would be annoyed because he'd have to use like his little finger because my body was so small it couldn't take his big fat finger.
Yeah, he should have been
So
in prison. That man should have been in prison.
I know. It's just, as an
Unbelievable.
infant, I remember my mother's hands and I enjoyed them. Sometimes, they were scratchy or cold or hot, but it was okay. But my dad's hands touched me, blah, blah, blah. My body would get tense, whatever. So one time mom saw him from the doorway and she hollered saying, Ken, what the hell are you doing? He said, nothing. What are you talking about? You don't know
And
what you're talking about.
that is so classic of perpetrators, right? Deflect, flip the script, put it
Yeah,
back on them.
yeah.
Yeah.
And mom pushed him out of the way, picked me up and soothed me. But from that point forward, he always had his hands on me or his fingers inside of me. So
Yeah.
that's hands. And then the next one is basically the same time period. Um, Dad started to pinch or prick me and then whisper in my ear. It was different things that he would whisper. And I think one of the things he whispered was Trish.
Write
Trish.
that down. Can you add that
Um,
right now so you don't forget? That's
yeah.
really important, right?
Um, one
Oh,
of
he
the,
started that early with that crap.
yeah, but he had to know that that was part of an organization that
Yeah,
used that command. So
that's why he
he
started that early.
knew. Yeah, he knew. So that's who Owie is, my whole time he was in my life, he was pinching or pricking me if we were to, out, in normal circumstances where other people could see. He would pinch the back of my arm or something and so, whisper whatever, be it pumpkin or Trish or whatever.
You want to add pumpkin on that too?
Yeah, I probably should.
Yeah, so you capture that. These guys, these
I know, just disgusting. Just disgusting. It's one of the things I do with the torso is I talk to God as I'm hollering and hitting and
good,
say, make
good,
these motherfuckers burn in
good.
hell forever.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
everything they did to me, give them back tenfold. At the same time, they're burning.
That's right out of the book of Psalms. Absolutely.
So that's who Owie is. That was just at our house. I put to be pinched, pricked, and conditioned. Now, at some point, I'm going to come back here and talk about, and probably have another entry up here where, this group of people gets along with that group, and this one doesn't get along with that, and blah, blah,
Good.
blah. But for now, I just wanted the basics. And then file clerk, I was about three
Oh,
years
great
old.
artistic. That's a wonderful artistic little,
Oh, the PowerPoint. It
yeah, the
gives you
airbrush.
when you add the picture, it gives you different choices. So
Yeah,
I
that's a
can.
really good one right there.
She said she just takes in, sorts, and files information. She didn't really have a name until I was in Scientology, and that's what they called you part of your mind. From that point forward, I've always accessed her. However, the file clerk will only give up information that is approved by Trish. Oops, went too far. So, let me move this. One of the words Dad whispered in my ear when he was pinch and prick me was Trish. I think this was the initial setup for the rest of the conditioning I would follow. Oh, this needs to go on that
Oh, okay, there you go.
other card there. Yeah, right here.
Diana, you're doing groundbreaking work, I want you to know.
Okay, thanks. I don't really
You
know how
really
to
are.
take that.
No, the format and what you're doing, um, this is as significant as Alan's work.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You're
Well,
you're
there's
you're
just so many of
you're
them to
carrying on
try and write
the
it down. It was
you're
crazy.
carrying on his baton.
Oh, well, good. Okay, so Trish
I
comes.
like Trish.
I know she's a badass
Yes,
bitch.
I'm telling you, it's a beautiful thing. Look at that. She's got a lot of that beautiful rage.
Yeah. So I remember I told you it was trained and then terrible, but I
Oh,
realized when it got trained was when you did not have a living being that you were hurting. Terrible is when you did have a living being, but total was when you were just assassinating someone. So these two were in the training phase. Train it, do a higher level, the low level training, high level training, and this is the actual act of doing it. So total rapid intent sound hell, because total encompasses all of it. It's like the third final total level. Anyway,
yeah.
um, I'm getting a clue about her. She keeps everybody in their place. She doesn't let them run around. You know, the file clerk is kind of the same way. The file clerk sorts them and puts them together, but Trish makes sure they don't wander around and talk to each other and, get to know each other.
And that's why you're now being able to, you're getting all this information now because Trish is in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So her boss are the perps and her allies, the file clerk, Sarge and Blue, because the file clerk, they access the parts and Sarge gives permission or not. And Blue, just because she was the first. She was the first. Somehow Blue has a stature. So anyway, I put in here that's what Dad whispered in my ear. Oh, the first time I saw Trish was in a dream. She was standing by us working with a friend. That's what she kept saying. I refuse to allow anyone to help her. Remember I told you that first thing.
Wait, remind me. Hold on. Okay, keep shouting.
Oh, I had the dream where I was working in the house or in a place, helping somebody else do their work, but I was doing most of the work. And Trish kept saying, I refuse to allow anyone to help her. Because Trish is the one that, like, if Kitten or Sailor were being strangled to death, Trish was okay dying. She refused to let anybody help them because she thought this is all just such bullshit that we have to suffer through this. I would rather just die. So I'm not letting any of the parts help Kitten or Sailor. They get in trouble. It's just God has to take it because I'm not letting anybody else step in. If we die, we die.
Okay, how does she feel about Sailor and Kitten?
She's fine. Um, Here it says, I then remembered that it was Sailor or Kitten or any of the parts that were being strangled or hurt to such a degree they might die, that she wanted death rather than live through that hell. So she refused to allow anyone to help so that she could be allowed to die, so that we could all be allowed to die. Oops. And then the next time I saw her was in another dream the following day. That's where she was standing next to the wall with the shadow people. It's funny because when I made the parts map, I put 15 shadow people on there. But when I did the sketch, there was only 13. But then when I went back to the map, I figured out who the other two shadow people were. That was Wrist and Choke. So like those two weren't allowed out just yet, but they did exist, and she was showing me that. It says, I realize now that there's still more people behind that wall. It is all of the people that the parts were forced to actually kill. And that is because of you. I would have said killed, but I thought forced to kill.
Good. Good.
So Scar killed one baby and two cats with forced guidance. Little Killer only killed kittens and puppies. Frick killed 32 people, 6 adults and 16 children. Frack killed 26 people. All of them were children who were beheaded. Pumpkin killed 17 people. 6 were children, 4 were teenagers, and 7 were adults. Joker killed 7 people, 6 adults, and 1 child.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
So I've got that is 85 more people, 85 more parts. I mean, if there's a part for each one of those kills, that is. So,
I tell you, ultimately, right, in working through the guilt of that, and we can, we'll work through
yeah,
a lot of that, but ultimately, the work you're doing is on behalf of those,
that, yeah. Well,
right? So
here,
that,
I'll come back
and
here. I'm going to show you. If you notice the killers and the Sarge giving them permission and the athletes with the ability to do it, the strength. But the athletes, Sarge created the athletes to have the strength. So she takes the strength and moves them either into work, right? Kitten said all the work, because authority goes around this circle here, or the killers. If you'll notice, the opposite side of the circle here
that's
are
right.
the hunters. Now, Wolf was the one that hunted the children or teenager or adult
Mhm.
to get them so that these guys could take care of them. And I added this little guy yesterday. He's the executioner because when I went to these money makers, I'll show you this picture. Let me zoom in. Oh, it's upside down. Look at that. It's a bunch of wealthy people sitting around in front of a show.
Yeah.
Now that's where those killers were. That's where Sailor and Kitten had to go to those places, or Joker, or they would have some sort of like satanic theater show, and they
Yep.
would have Frack decapitate heads to children, or they would have Frick slice open someone's throat, or they would have Pumpkin smash up a body to tenderize the meat so that they could eat it.
Yep.
And I also figured out that they wanted the bones smashed up because they wanted to get the bone marrow out of the bones. So that's why it had to be smashed up. Now,
What did they do with the bone marrow?
they ingested it. They would like suck it out of the bone, just like a dog would tear up a bone to get at the center of it to eat the bone marrow. They think it's good for you. And maybe it is. I don't know. I don't know. But what would happen would be is they would have a request. That would go to Sarge. Sarge would say, okay, I guess this line probably needs to change, but see how these four all kind of are connected. These are all the killers. These guys were just when I was a little child. But Scar and Frick are connected because they both use knives.
Yeah.
So Sarge would figure out which of the killers that you needed, and then the executioner would stand in front of the crowd and say, all right, let the executioner come out. And the executioner would come out and do some little ceremony. And then they would, when it came time to do the actual killing, executioner would turn into either Joker, Pumpkin, Frick, or Frack.
Yeah,
If
this
that makes
is
sense.
right. And so what they were doing is exactly like on the Manchurian Candidate.
Um,
Have you seen that movie?
Years ago, but before I had any real
There's a remake
understanding.
of it, but it opens with the Chinese scientist showing CIA person or who else.
Uh-huh,
Uh,
uh-huh. So yeah, the
yeah, how many people
executioner was the one that put on the show until the actual kill happened, and then another part took over. So if you'll see over here on this second page, this is going to be where all those different kills occurred and any different parts that developed. Because I started remembering it wasn't just car rides in limousines or fancy cars to and from people's houses. They also used a boat and took me to different places. So there's a
would
whole
make
lot more.
sense,
This is what's still behind the wall.
right? It would make sense as far as the boat if you're right on the lake or they, that's right.
Yeah, yeah. So that's Well, I executioner is like kind of on the next, he's on the next page. So I don't want to get into that just yet. So there's Trish. Oh, so that's where that came from there. It says, notice in my part math, yeah, hunters are on the opposite side of the killers. It was Wolf who hunted and caught many of the children and teen. The adults were provided by the perps. Okay, so that's Trish. There's probably a little more there, but I don't know what it is yet. So then that was 3 years old. That was when I started being, sexually abused. So then puzzle came into being.
Now, was there something about the number three, about age three, that they
Oh,
changed?
so much happened at the age of 3. That was like the beginning of insanity.
So is it, meaning, is that a number that they wait for and they
I
then
think so because
make it up?
I
If your
was
dad
listening.
was already perping, but
Yeah, he was conditioning my body and my sexual organs, so to speak, to be comfortable with or used to being invaded.
yeah,
That's what that
good point.
conditioning was. And the pinching and the poking was about conditioning that word associated with pain. So yeah, so Trish came, I don't know if she came first, second, third, or what, but just when I was doing this, she was first. Or actually, no, the file clerk was. It's like somehow she knew there was going to be a lot of shit going on. So she started sorting things and Trish started um controlling things and then I got to go to school. Or not school, but I just remember I loved she's a little girl who was given a puzzle in the shape of the United States. The pieces were each of the different states, and I remember absolutely loving putting it together over and over and over. From that day forward, I've always enjoyed putting puzzles together. And literally, I've done 2,000 piece puzzles, with tiny little pieces. And I've even done a puzzle that was it was a hot air balloon in the midst of a perfect blue sky.
Oh, no, you didn't.
And the balloon was like, maybe one
Oh,
tenth of
gosh.
the
You're just
puzzle.
you're a glutton for punishment. By the way,
Yeah.
Susan loves puzzles.
Oh, wow.
There's
Yeah.
another thing you guys have in common. Yeah.
So yeah, literal puzzles and puzzles in my mind or
Yeah.
puzzles in the world. This is listening to and learning from Alan helped me immensely. Learning how to put the puzzle of the world together. And you, John, is helping me put the puzzle of my mind and memory together. So that's puzzle. Smarty Pants was her role is to understand the world. It's just an indication of my IQ, which is a gift from God. In the back of a baby book mom had for me, it says Mother's Notes. There was only one entry dated, it was like 3 months after I was born, or 2 months. This is after 2 months of age, is very strong little girl. She does very well for her age, is very alert and notices a lot. It occurred to me that this is actually saying something because I had two older sisters, which means that mom had two children before me. Therefore, to make a note like this indicated that I was different from them in
Yeah.
this manner. Oops. So she noticed something different. And I think it was, I don't know. But I would make comments about certain things that a 3-year-old would notice. But I remember dad didn't like that. And he'd say, what are you, a smarty pants? Or anytime I noticed something that he did not, or knew something that he did not, he would say in a very derogatory way, all
Wow.
right, smarty pants, that's enough from you. Or no one cares what you have to say, smarty pants. So he would, now I said, do recall that my father was a smart man as well. But I think he felt intimidated by me because of my intelligence. He later learned that I could use my high IQ and sell my skills. This is what led us to the training camp. This training camp wasn't just about physical abilities, it was also about work on our mental abilities. So that's smarty pants. This is the IQ. and dream her boss is God.
Okay. Okay.
So this is a part of my consciousness that has dreams. Even as a little girl, I would remember to talk about my dreams. Generally, no one could help me with them. Later, as a teen, I began to understand different things from them. Later, I read a book by Carl Jung, which helped me to understand the archetypal imagery. I was then able to further understand my dreams. When I have a dream, my first impression when I wake up is what I cling to, the feeling.
Yep.
What is the general feeling I receive from it? What are the main images that stick with me? Then I think about the detail and how it fits in with the feeling and the imagery.
That's good. That's good.
Puzzle helps me with this. So does God. My parts talk to me through my dreams, and so does God. Jesus came to me once in a dream. In that dream, he showed me over 100 people standing on top of a church. That dream has been incredibly profound, and I printed that on the next page. I don't know if you want to go into that or not.
If you would like to.
This was the dream I was telling you is in that journal you probably haven't gotten to yet, but I just read it from my thing. And so this is from 1994.
Yeah.
I wrote it.
Let's go through this. Let's go through this. Are
Okay.
you okay? Are you okay doing it?
Oh, yeah. Said I had a dream around April 20th, 1994. I decided to write about this dream for one of my English class assignments. Suddenly dark gray cement lay under my feet. It stretched out for half a block at least, considering all of the people that were on it. Hundreds of people were facing in one direction. There was a feeling of happy anticipation. I thought it was from a beautiful blue sky. There was not one cloud in sight. This crowd of people was oohing and eyeing and pointing at the sky. What else could it be from? They were also excited and waiting. I turned and saw a familiar face. Deborah was standing back from the crowd as I was. Now, when I was in college doing this, I had a friend named Deborah, and that's who was in the dream, was that friend. It was a very short-lived 3 or 4 month dream, but that's who Deborah was in the dream. She was looking at
Now,
me
Diana, when
and
you say 3 to 4 month minute, meaning it kept it current, it was a reoccurring dream?
no, I went to school, college for only like one
Oh,
semester.
I'm sorry. I got you. I got you.
Yeah, so it's only like 3 months. She was looking at me and then at them and back at me again with a judgment on her face that I did not want to decipher. I too was enjoying the sun and feeling good about myself and the day. I was content to be on the remote side of the parking lot. There were simply too many people. Now, when I did this last night or yesterday, it occurred to me that this is a story about all my parts.
Okay.
Yeah, I was content to be on the remote side of the part. There were simply too many parts, right? Instead of
Interesting.
people. I looked around behind me. I saw a portion of a building cropping up. I cocked my head and it seemed to me to be a portion of the top of a church. My body, my mind, my temple, my church, right? The angle of the structure was odd. It occurred to me that from this vantage, it would make me standing on top of a building, not in the street at school. I expanded my vision and turned to look where everyone was gathered, all those parts. At the point where they all ended was a 4 foot wall.
Yeah.
This is the top of a building. Amazement raced through my mind that I should not know where I was. I didn't know my life.
Hmm.
After a moment, I accepted this and turned to enjoy the sky once more. I was happy not knowing. The
Okay.
breeze was warm and the sky beautiful. With my head craned to see directly above me, I noticed a few clouds coming from behind. Nice, fluffy white clouds. I looked to the others to see if they had noticed them. Being distanced very much behind them, Deborah and I were the only ones. Put a comma there. She raised her hand, pointing a finger to one of the clouds to show me their presence. I noticed that I had. I nodded that I had. I turned to see more of the sky. What I saw frightened me. The clouds seemed to have a body and a life of their own. Their presence, once occasional and scarce, was becoming oppressive and almost warlike. They drew closer and became many. Their movements became faster, racing towards us. I sensed that more than a storm was coming. I looked to the other side of the sky. It was still clear. Half of the sky filled with serene blue, and half of the sky filled with militant gray. How strange is this sight, I thought. The others had only begun to notice the fluffy white clouds, but even these created faces of fear and sounds of panic. Despair filled the air. I felt myself become part of their fear. Just then, there was something in the air flying over the building. It completely stole my attention. Now, reading that, I get the sense that those clouds, half of the sky was clear. That was my naive, not knowing self. And the
Yeah.
clouds were the parts coming, and the people were the parts also. So they were freaking out because, oh my God, they're coming all at once. Anyway, just then something that completely stole my attention. Its flowing long hair and a beard gave way to a face filled with resolution. Layered robes of brown and tans flailed against a body of majestic strength. Forcing its way through the sky in a diagonal behind the crowd, a man flew by no more than 20 feet above me. He was mounted on a device that seemed to be a cross between a horse with its spirit and speed and a broom made of metal with small feathers forming wings that curved up and around his lower body. Now, in my mind, that's like a connection between the witchcraft and the non-witchcraft. Because it was like a witch's broom, except it had wings. um, the very peak of this flying machine was adorned with a crown of gold and jewels. Adrenaline coursed through me and my breath shortened. I looked at Deborah, the only other person to have witnessed this event, and she said to me, "That was Jesus, wasn't it?" She knew it as well. I lifted my shoulders and looked to where I thought he might have gone. He was no longer in the air nor anywhere else my eyes could search. My mind began to race. Where did he go? What did his presence here imply? Was it his intention to return? I shook my head. A cold wind had begun. As the weather shifted, so did the other people. They turned to look behind them. The terror of God's wrath moved through them as they saw the sky choked gray. They were looking for something. This time, I knew what that something was. It had just flown past us. As they began to move in our direction, I took this as a cue to move myself and Deborah out of there and to shelter, meaning the parts were coming towards me and I didn't want anything to do with it. We began to walk along the wall that was next to us. It came to an opening. It was a small stairwell open to the sky. Silver dollar-sized spots of rain had begun to fall on the ground. I looked into the dim stairwell and saw a landing with a door at the bottom. I walked down, but when I tried the door, it did not open. I looked to my left, and it was a small alcove also open to the sky. Judging from the sound of the wind coming from above us, this would at least shelter us from the full force of the storm. Now I'm going to interject here. My whole life, I've never understood why the top of a church or a church at all would have, a stairwell with a door at the bottom and then just like 6 feet long and 4 feet wide, just an empty space open to the sky. And I learned from Alan that some churches had that particular thing. It wasn't on the roof, it was on the ground. And there's no way I could have known this. So it's like God was showing me in the dream. But that was where they would have, was it a donkey or a goat or some sort of sacrifice would be bringing all sorts of people behind and with. And as they were going through some sort of a entryway, that it was either an animal or person, I forget what Alan said, but they would skip off into this alcove. That's why it was there, while all the rest of the crowd moved forward. It was like designed for that special thing to be pulled off to the side. And that was its only purpose. But I didn't know that until what,
Really?
15 or 20 years later. Do
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
I think I do.
Yeah,
I
that there's
never
some,
thought about that.
yeah. So anyway, Deborah knelt down against the wall that held the door. Her arms wrapped around her legs, she placed her face into her knees. So she kind of disappeared. I'm thinking this is probably a part, but I don't know what part. 2 feet away against the wall, over and across from her, I also knelt down. This was a small space, perhaps 3 feet wide and 5 feet long. I'm not sure what it was. Completely empty of windows, doors, except the one or more stairs that seemed to have no purpose except to shelter us from the weather. To our good fortune, the rain was moving at an angle that was kind to us. Resigned to wait the storm out, we sat. Just as I turned to ask Deborah what she thought the sight of Jesus flying over us on that strange thing meant, I had a sudden premonition, a premonition of knowing that settled deep in the pit of my stomach in the center of my heart. Now that's Claire and pit right there, right?
Uh,
Premonition and the pit of my stomach.
that's okay. That's yep, yep.
Jesus is coming this way from the center of the building. This is the premonition. Jesus is coming this way from the center of the building. He's coming to see these people and talk to them. He is coming this way through this very door, the same door we now sit but a few feet from. How absolutely lucky we are to be here. Here in this small space that serves no purpose, we will be witness to the most profound thing that will ever happen in our lives. Jesus is going to walk right past us, and we will be blessed with his presence, if only for a moment. I turned to Deborah to see, and that was as clear as day in my mind in the dream. I didn't say it out loud, but it was there. I turned to Deborah to see if she could also feel him approaching. Her head was still on her knees. The moment I opened my mouth to draw her attention upward, the door opened, and Jesus walked through it into the alcove. I fully expected him to walk by us and into the crowd above. Instead, he stopped and turned towards us. I closed my mouth. Suddenly, we were on the roof of the church, standing face to face. We went immediate. Jesus turned and looked at me and moved us out of the alcove, the special place, out to the top of the church. His face seemed to be the face of every nation, hair of all textures and a face that changed. All at once, he was white, black, Asian, Persian, Indian, and hundreds of other brands of blood. I found my mind trying to focus on the face of Jesus that I had grown up with, the face that the Christian world presents, publishes, and sells to the world. The moment I thought this, he started to become that face. When I noticed him shifting to the face I wanted to see, I stopped myself and simply looked at him. His face did not matter, his presence did, peaceful and full of love and life and love. I relaxed and surrendered to his beautiful magnificence. Sorry.
Yeah, he gave this vision to you a long time ago.
Yeah, and I was an adult.
Yeah.
It says within seconds, his forehead began to glow of an iridescent golden light. It expanded and grew to encompass his face, shoulders, and ultimately his entire body. Awestruck, I watched him transform from particles of flesh to waves of light. Then suddenly, with powerful focus, all of the radiance in his body shifted to his forehead. With all the speed, force, and intensity of a lightning bolt, this light shot from his forehead into mine. I felt it. Sorry, I
No need
cry
to,
every time I read this.
Diana, there's no need to apologize. You know
I
how
always wonder why me.
well, you know what? To me, it matches what you went through. The greater the degree of suffering, the greater the degree the Lord pays attention.
I said I felt it fill my mind, my heart, and my body. The very atoms in every cell of my body were filled with it. I mean, John, I felt like light itself, but different. Anyway, I had no breath nor need for breath. Time was suspended. I buoyantly drifted in a blessed place. Then slowly this dynamic force dissipated into me. It didn't go away, it went into me.
Yeah.
Coming back to the world as it was, I saw Jesus looking at me. I had always wanted to know how Jesus experienced the world. I could hear him say in my mind, now we both know. We were now back in the alcove. Smiling, he turned and walked up the stairs. I sat there dumbfounded. Deborah had finally lifted her head from her knees. Did she see any of this? I don't know. I do know that I woke up with only one thought in my mind. Jesus touched me.
Mhm.
Sitting down to write this dream, I had only one word in my mind. That was ominous. And then I defined the word ominous in the paper. So that was the dream. And I was like, if that was 1994, then I was 29 years, or wait, I was born in 65 to 90. Yeah, I was 29 years old. And at the time I was into the new age. I didn't think I just thought Jesus was a man. I didn't think he was supernatural. But he showed me in this dream and I wrote it down. And I remember what happened before this was uh Crystalline, right? The new age girl.
Yep.
She decided that oh, this is another part. It's not even Crystal. I need to write this down now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This is part of the
This is
benefit
another
of
part. Well, I decided that I wanted to join an ashram, right? In India and go, worship some guru in an ashram. And so I found out, I was into Buddhism. Maybe I should call it Buddha.
That's good. I like that.
Um, anyway, Buddha decided that he wanted to go live in an ashram. And so I called to find out what was required to do that. And they said, well, first, I had gone to a couple of Buddhist places and did a little stuff there, and I was transfixed. This was after the crystals and minerals and stuff in Milwaukee. I was down in Dallas. Now I'm in Dallas looking into Buddhism. I guess I was religion shopping. Alan talks about people religion shopping, and
Well,
that's what I
you were
did.
looking for truth.
I was looking for God and I couldn't
Yeah,
find
you were
him.
looking for truth and trying to and look at what all the false stuff that had been impressed upon you. So you were trying to
Hmm.
sift through
Yeah.
all the
No, I never
crap.
thought of it like that.
Oh yeah,
But
no.
anyway, so I looked into what was required and they said, well, you need to be able to meditate for 3 hours solid, straight, without interruption. So I proceeded to go after I would come home from work. I didn't watch any TV. I would go into my room. This was when I lived with a gay man, and we had two separate sides of the house, and the common areas were in the center. He did his thing, and I went into my room, and I would practice meditating. First it was an hour, and then I got up to 2 hours, and then I got up to 3 hours. And part of it was saying this chant over and over. And I could tell you what the chant is, but it's calling a demon, which I didn't know at the
Isn't
time.
that interesting that Eastern versus Middle Eastern meditation, right? Eastern, you're supposed to try to empty your mind. I'm sorry, yeah, Eastern. Middle Eastern, meaning the way God designed it, we are to actually think on these things. So we're to meditate on truths rather than empty one's mind. So it's
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Alan would talk about that too. Yeah. So anyway, they were like, well, you have to, do this chant, meditate for 3 hours solid, and just because that's what your life is going to be, meditating for a minimum of 3 hours a day. So it took like 3 months and I got there and it was, I guess I'll just say it this once and say, rebuke any demon to respond to this because it's for
Yeah, no,
education.
that's fine. That's right. That's right.
Anyway, it was Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. I don't know if you've ever heard that.
I have
Nam
not.
Myoho Renge Kyo over and over and over. And
And
I thought it was,
what does that mean?
I don't.
It'd be interesting to find the interpretation of that.
Yeah, maybe I'll look into that. But so anyway, finally I got to a point where I was oh, I should just read this to you. This was a letter I wrote to Alan, and it was one of the things I sent to you because I was confused about it and I didn't understand it. I think I will read it to you. I need to add this part now.
Yeah.
It says, hi, Alan, I have a huge question for you. Huge for me, that is. About 20 years ago, I was religion shopping. After visiting several different Christian churches, I swung my eyes to Buddhism, and I think simply because it was around and being touted at the time. I dove into the meditation chanting head on. Now, I didn't know what Buddhism was about or any of its tenets, but somehow I believed that this was it, my spiritual awakening. After a point, I found out about ashrams and priests, and I just had to go and become one of those people who live there in an ashram and I don't know, pray all day and be with God. Misguided, I know. I found out the requirement was to be able to meditate for 3 hours solid per day. So that's what I set out to do. I sat in my apartment meditating or trying to for 3 hours a day. At first, I just chanted, but after a while, I just sat quietly and tried to first still, then quiet, or rather empty my mind. After a few weeks, I was able to do 3 hours a day, most of the time just reflective or quiet in my mind. During a few occasions, I was quite peaceful with it. There's one occasion that was, and I put dot, 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 I can only describe it. But before I do, I also like to interject another experience very quickly. Several years before, in my New Age search, I became Reiki 1 certified, and I've recently found out that's witchcraft,
Mhm.
a hands-on healing art. When I was being certified, there was the very end, a point where the master put her hands on the top of my head, the crown, and she somehow certified me. At that moment, I vividly recall, and I hesitate to say this, but I was in space. What I mean was that my consciousness, my awareness was no longer in that chair or room, but in space. Now, this was not space with stars, but it was filled with numbers, letters, symbols, colors, etc., except that these items were in place of the stars and moving slowly. I was alone with these symbols in space. I just looked at them all, experienced it all. Next thing I recall was opening my eyes and seeing the room and Master. I told her about it and she smiled. From that point on, I have never understood the significance of it, just put it in the back of my mind with a question mark on it. Anyhow, back to the meditation. I recall getting to a very still, quiet place, mentally, physically, emotionally, in my mind. I was very aware of my surroundings, the noises, etc., but in my mind, I was still. I remember, I don't want to say seeing a blue light. Oh, I forgot about this too. Seeing a blue light from above, but it wasn't a light. The only way to describe it is that it was like a river, plasma, or not physical, but electric or filled with energy, movement, vibration, but vertical. What I suppose a real river would be in heaven, I guess. It wasn't long, just observed it, no real thoughts. There came a point when I felt it. I saw it in my mind's eye, it pour into my crown chakra from top down. From top down, my body was filled with it. I still had awareness of my surroundings, but this washed through me. There was a point when I vaguely recall being or mingling with it. one with it or me with it in the river. I felt peaceful. Once over, I opened my eyes and went about the evening and later to bed. But again, another question mark. Didn't know what that was. I believe it was the next time I meditated or the next day or so. I backed off because of the uncertainty of it, but I felt no fear of it. I was curious what it was and its meaning, implications. I again meditated, and after a while of being still in my mind, and as I write this, I realize I got to the state much quicker than before. Anyhow, at some point I was in space again, but this space was with stars, points of light all over. I was just there, observing. I could sense my body having a kind of adrenaline or excitement about it and keeping myself calm. That would be Wolf. Being in this space, just my awareness, consciousness, I was looking at the stars, wondering about them and God and what was all this for. Now, this was on my own, no master on this one for some time. I began to see the stars in the distance and then all around begin to slowly move to a center, if you will, in front of me, but at a very great distance. They coalesced into one spot, very far off, and then moved towards me, at first slowly and then increasingly faster until it was lightning speed and coming towards me. I almost said coming to me, but I recall just looking at it and wondering perhaps that in itself, and perhaps if that in itself brought it. Anyhow, almost instantly as it approached me, I saw the coalesced stars form into a shape. I kept trying to what? Just look at what it was becoming? This was when it was not too far, but also not too near. Anyhow, it was all of a sudden a face, just a head made of stars. And it was literally inches from my nose. I mean, it was just like suddenly right there. I could feel like a little wind or air pressure or something. I recall myself recoiling from it, and I recall feeling the sudden stop in front of me, almost as though a car speeding at you stops 2 inches short of you. I felt the air pressure of it, the energetic motion of it. Anyhow, I was very freaked out and startled by this face, just a face 1 or 2 inches from my nose. It was real, it had substance, and it was in my mind, 2 inches in front of me. Its eyes bore into mine, or tried to. I was instantly terrified, felt myself back up in my mind, and then I opened my eyes. I was in my room and alone. I have to say, I know it was there, but now I couldn't see it. I quickly got up, went to the other room, moved around, opened and closed cupboards, fridges, etc., and finally sat down. I remember a vividly clear voice, my own voice in my mind, say to me, that was the face of God. But every time I heard that, I could not put aside the terror that I felt. It was total fear I had never felt before. If that was God, why the fear? Anyhow, it took days, weeks to shake it. I never meditated after that day to this. I never continued on with the religion search either, just talked to God myself as I always had. That also became a huge question mark for me. And then I go into a video that I saw, which is kind of irrelevant. Um, it says it hit me after seeing that video that when the blue river was that a blue Genii, meaning a demon, the star cluster into a face, was that a Merkaba or Genii or demon? It hit me very deeply. Was that Genii or whatever in his Merkaba attempting to what, enter me or my mind? Did I somehow call to me just out of ignorance, happen to witness something, some entity, as you say, trying to find a host? Then I ask him, are they real? Or is it BS? Is that truth? I don't want you to tell me what my experience was because I know what it was, but do you have any insight into possible explanations of it? The Blue River, the face, the fear. And then I tell him the different books I read about it. It says, now I agree with you that each person's experience, spiritual or otherwise, are for that person only, and only they can decipher them for themselves. What I'd like to know is, do you have any insight into this, and can you refer me to any published information? Says, was this merging with this Blue River me finding my spirit, as you say, the soul calling for its spirit? I think this might be the case, but I'm sure I don't have all the info. And even if that's so, so what do you know what I mean? Anyway, was this face an entity? If so, how could I, little me, push it away and others not? And this business of a Merkaba or a car, I didn't have one and neither did his face. And then it's a couple more pages about different videos, but his response was, it says, hello, Diana. Thank you for the latest batch transcripts, much appreciated. Tonight's talk, I used a term that means to go off in disarray, and then he tells me how to spell it. It says, all religions which rely upon techniques to find a pathway or merger with a creator tend to bring on demonic invitation. In fact, that is their goal. There's no doubt that such entities exist and they are looking for a host. The colors are not so relevant, and remember that blue is the base lodge of entry, like in Masonry. Blue is also the destroyer, as in Shiva in India. Tampering with the occult is a very dangerous procedure, perhaps even more so for the Western mind. The original Indian idea of Hinduism, of meditation, was primarily to escape the world and all of its suffering by inducing what Westerners would call a catatonic state. The gift of life is to allow spirit to manifest fully via the mind. It is destructive to reach nirvana, where nothingness is called bliss and the mind inoperative.
That's
There's
good.
nothing.
I really like that phrase. Good for him.
There's nothing wrong with natural meditation, which occurs when we are having a peaceful walk with no overriding stress or worry. The mind can wander at its leisure and take you into marvelous places, but you are still in control. What you're describing is well documented in Hostage to the Devil by Malachi Martin, and then I read it. In the chapter, The Rooster and the Tortoise, he writes of a case of a psychologist whose research into non-ordinary states of human consciousness brought on the invitation. Since you are a unique spirit within your body, be content with it rather than look for something from outside, which you've been enticed to think is better, more powerful, etc. And he says, all the best, Alan. So I had that experience, and then like a month or so later, after I stopped meditating, is when Jesus came to me in the dream. So it's like Jesus is saying, I'm proud of you that you did not accept that demon, even though you were misguided and you called it to you and it was there and you could have gotten power and X, Y, and Z. You didn't. You became fearful. You backed away. You didn't go back. You repented. And I feel like in that dream, he was telling me, good job, number one. And number two, I think he was showing me all my parts that I wasn't ready to see yet, but that when I was, he would show me. And that happened because once I got baptized, then my parts showed that, right? All my memories came back. So I think that that dream was telling me what was going to happen in the future. And a lot of what you say to me about, because I would have to remember my childhood and that pain that Jesus would show me in order for me to fulfill my purpose through the videos of whatever I'm going to teach other people, the work that I'm doing with you. So like when our minds were, we had a conversation and I don't remember what it was, but I'm starting to get a vibe of what it was about, if that makes sense.
Yeah, meaning in the dream.
Yeah, yeah. Was
maybe
like
more.
he was saying, look, it's not going to happen right now. And this is all of the people you need to get to know.
There we go.
But I'm coming to you to say, good job. You trusted your gut and
Mhm.
your clairvoyance, and you backed away. It was again that my that fear that gets in my gut that I know it's not right, it's not God. I remember I read that to Melissa, the dream, and I told her, I said, I knew it couldn't be God because I had fear. That God doesn't bring fear, only the devil brings fear. And yeah, she's like, wow, yeah, that's right. That's true. Because she knows the Bible way better than I do. So,
Well,
but yeah,
it makes total sense to me, Diana, that and the ultimate dilemma as far as the real deep theological question. Bottom line is this, that every survivor legitimately has and therefore is going to have to wrestle with is exactly what's in the book of Job, which is if there's love in God, then why?
yeah,
And as
yeah,
Job wrestles through that, the one thing that becomes clear is at the beginning and the end of the book, it says, in all these things, Job did not sin. So it's like an Oreo cookie, all the crap is in the middle. So that's the prosperity gospel. That's, they were getting down on Job, these three supposed friends. They weren't friends. Each took, two rounds at him. And then Elihu was so off base that he's beyond redemption because God doesn't tell him um, to join the request to have Job pray and intervene and intercede on their behalf. So the very last guy is beyond hope. Uh, so he's never prayed for. And we're given a glimpse. That's really the only book that shows us a glimpse into what happens in the heavenly realm where Satan's strutting around.
mm-hmm,
And the one thing that I think Job saw, so at the end of the book, he says, I knew about you, but now I've seen, and I repent in ashes. Um, to take a casual reading at that is going to mess somebody up unless we really put ourselves into or try to figure out what's going on. God says there was nobody like Job on earth. So Job was the guy, Job was the man. And so people that try to take a casual look at that don't understand what it takes to be close to God. This is a man that was wholeheartedly following after God, yet all hell broke loose. He was targeted.
yeah, yeah,
So, because of that, the intensity of God's care for Job, and very similar, I believe, to Jesus and John the Baptist. John the Baptist gets arrested for talking about a non-religious issue. It was a moral issue, right? It's a marriage. Herod was shacking up with his sister-in-law, and his sister-in-law didn't like John the Baptist saying you can't do that, so they had him
mm-hmm.
arrested. And John sends word through his friends, ask Jesus, basically, are you the one? Did something go awry? Meaning, where are you? I need you. Meaning, this is going from bad to worse. So the cry of the human heart is, do you know? Do you see? Do you care? And for those that are on the receiving end of the worst kind of evil, God has a special amount of grace for them in the sense that if people can understand and risk believing that when you were being hurt, when Blue was being hurt, and just like you saw all the perps um, in that one room where they all backed away, Jesus came.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Every time they were hurting you, they were hurting him. The ultimate question is, why didn't he step in? That we
Well,
don't
he
know,
did
but
in that moment
right.
for
But as
me.
long
Yeah.
as long as we can risk believing that he is not passive, there, as a matter of fact, there's a verse in Isaiah where it says in Isaiah 63 or 59, I think it's in 63, where it says, that, as a matter of fact, can I read this too? Because this is really intense.
Sure. Yeah.
If I can find it. And it's like he's holding back, he's holding back. I don't know if I can find it right now. I'll find it. But it's really intense where it says that he held back until, right, until the moment. So I'll find that and send it to you. So as long as we can risk believing that God himself is being impacted, and though I may not know the exact reasons why I went through it, as long as I know that he was not passive. And so in your life, when, I will find that. Oh, there it is. Okay. Isaiah 42, starting in verse 1. I just want to read this for a second because this will
Mhm.
help you understand
Well,
how.
isn't it that God is inside each one of us? And so when Satan or bad people that have Satan in them are attacking and harming a baby or a toddler or any human being, he knows that God is in that person. So it's not just about attacking and hurting me and satisfying their ego. It's about Satan fighting God through this body,
Yes,
right?
let me go one better. And not so
Yeah.
much one better. I don't mean it like that. It would be like a home invasion robbery. You tie up the parents. Gosh, I dealt with a guy that participated in something like this in prison
Oh,
sex. This was one of the hardest ones. And I think he ended up becoming a Christian. And his
oh,
greatest concern was how could God ever forgive him? That was the hardest guy for me to deal with because I think he was legitimate. But when he was age 17, he was, older guys sort of, he was just going along with these older guys. So, uh,
uh-huh.
Bill. So they broke in, they tied up the parents' family, and then raped a kid in front of the parents.
Ugh.
Okay. That, right? Just exactly what you felt. Okay. That's what Satan's doing. That's what the perps are doing when they're harming a child. It's in front of God's face.
Yeah, yeah, it's
It's
hurting
that this
him.
is your child, and I'm doing this to you. So in chapter 42, Isaiah 42:14, it says this, that he, God, will say, I'm sorry, I have long been silent. Yes, I've restrained myself up until now. But now, like a woman in labor, I'll cry and groan and pant, and I will level the mountains and the hills, and I will blight all their greenery. I will turn, meaning it's like
He's gonna handle it.
he was having to fight, restraining himself, because every time they harmed you, his rage was ready to go out. Um, and it will be unleashed. But somehow, as long as you know he was so enraged every time that
Isn't that Lucy? My part Lucy, isn't that God enraged?
there we go. There we go. Okay. And that's
So
where,
that it should be God's picture there. Furious.
or a really big angel. Okay.
Yeah.
That's where, as a matter of fact, let me read 59 because it says, where's it? Where's it? Where's it? Okay, the Lord looked and he was displeased to find there was no justice. He was amazed, and it says, astonished, appalled, and astounded to see that no one intervened to help the oppressed. So he himself stepped in to save them with his strong arm, and his justice sustained him. That's why Lucy can feel, right? It's he put on
Yeah.
righteousness as his
That's who
body armor.
Lucy is.
Okay, there
Yeah.
you go. Right? So he will repay, this is beautiful. He will repay his enemies for their evil deeds. His fury will fall on his foes and he'll pay them back even to the ends of the earth. Okay, that's an intensity. That's exactly also in Isaiah 63. So if you can risk believing that in the midst of that, he was feeling it too, but he's kept his hand of protection upon you all these years because you are going to be used strategically, Diana. God
I
answered your
understand
pain,
that.
fell on deaf ears.
And John, I have this sense that before I was born, or maybe in the womb, that God told me I there's a hard job for you and asked me if I would accept it, and I did. I accepted it somehow. I think Carrie Alahe mentioned once that she had a feeling that before this life that she was in hell, and something happened where she was in hell and she repented, and that God came and took her out of there and put her in this life in that hard situation so that she could do good work from it. And when she was talking about that, I thought, I got the impression that I was, not that I was in hell, but just before I was born, he asked me if I wanted to do that. Like, like Archangel Michael, I got a really hard job. You're going to be tortured for the first 11 years of your life, and then you're going to be dumb to it for 50 years, and then all of a sudden it's going to come back, and then you're going to have a purpose. Do you accept that job? And I feel like I said yes.
Let me read Isaiah 49, how it starts. Um, Verse 2, the Lord called me before my birth, from within the womb he called me by my name, or by name. He made my words of judgment as sharp as a sword. He's hidden me in the shadow of his hand. I'm like a sharp arrow in his quiver. He said to me, you are my servant, Israel, and you will bring me glory. I replied, but my work seems so useless. I've spent my strength for nothing and for no purpose. I'll leave it all in the Lord's hands. I'll trust God for my reward. And now the Lord speaks. And now the Lord speaks, the one who formed me in my mother's womb to be a servant, who commissioned me to bring back Israel. The Lord has honored me, and my God has given me strength. He says, you will do more than restore the people of Israel to me. I'll make you a light to the Gentiles, and you will bring my salvation to the ends of the earth. And then verse 8 says this is what the Lord says, at just the right time, I will respond to you. On the day of salvation, I will help you. And it's always, God's timing is not our timing, but it
Yeah.
doesn't mean he's passive. And so Lucy's rage matches God's rage almost. God is even more angry. So she has God's heart. And so the perps wanted to invert that. But I think she's just now starting to figure out, wait a second, those
I'm
little
not a bad guy. I'm a good guy. Yeah.
she has the intensity, she has a sense of God's intensity. When he says, I'll step in. As a matter of fact, let me read 63. It's a beautiful thing, real fast. Okay, so chapter 63 in Isaiah, it starts like this. Okay, who's this? It comes from Edom, from the city of Basra, with his clothing stained red. Okay, who's this in royal robes marching in great strength? It is I, the Lord announces, I'm sorry, it is I, the Lord, announcing your salvation, meaning I'm kicking bucket and butt and taking names. It's I, the Lord, who has the power to save. And the person says, why are your clothes so red? As if you've been treading out grapes. I mean, it's all splashing.
Yeah.
Okay. I've been treading out the winepress alone. As a matter of fact, this is where you get in the what's the Battle Hymn of the Republic, right? About the winepress of his wrath. I've been treading out the winepress alone. No one was there to help me. In my anger, I have trampled my enemies as if they were grapes. In my fury, I've trampled my foes. Their blood has stained my clothes. For the time has come for me to avenge my people. See, it says, for the day of vengeance was in my heart. That's beautiful. To ransom them from their perps. I put that in, from their oppressors. Okay. And this is his heart. I was amazed and appalled to see that there was no one that intervened to help the oppressed. So I myself stepped in to save them with my strong arm, and my wrath sustained me. That's what Lucy feels. So that's how intense God is. And you guys are going to be able to see, I pray on this side, right, of eternity, but it's a perfect prayer as you're whacking the hell out of that torso guy, whatever you want to call him, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Lord, turn it up hotter on them now. Make them feel this. That's a
Yeah.
beautiful prayer.
Yeah. Each one. Wow.
So it shows you that, and look at Trisha's clothing. It's
I
a
know, right?
it's
Yeah.
such a beautiful thing when we find out. And this is, I tell you what, this is what's been stolen from Christians through churches because this easy grace, stupid forgiveness,
There
poor
she is.
teaching. Right there you go. That's right out of God's own heart.
Yeah.
That God hates perps, and so it's a beautiful thing. And so to think that God has kept His hand upon you. And now he's going to use you also to set captives free. So the work you're doing, Diana, is a noble work. And that's what's so interesting about Chris. So he has the heart of nobility, but it's been so distorted, when he put his hand around. So it's two things. When he put his hand around you, he's really putting around himself. There's a part of him that has inverted
Yeah. Yeah.
as far as he hates that part. It'll be very interesting. He's turned the hate toward
On
himself. And so
onto himself.
here's doing
Yeah.
the exact same work that he needs to do. But at some point in time, when the timing is right, you'll be able to share with him. There's bump. He needs to feel that. There's the pain of the wrist. So he needs to
Hmm.
feel what he's done to you at the right. You'll know when it's right. And that will be a healthy repentance because then
Yeah. Yeah.
he'll dedicate himself to protecting you the right way the rest of your marriage.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'll happen, but it'll
Yeah.
be
See, I
right
think,
time.
yeah, he's so busy beating himself up.
Yeah. No, so to
That's what
be
each beer is. It's
absolutely.
let me kill myself. Yeah.
That's right. So to be able to reach in and tap in, so if he could do his own drawing, man, right? To be able to say, Chris, I want here. You show me the heart and show me the heart when that heart started beating. And I'll tell you what, it was always there since childhood for him.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so for him, the answer to his healing is tapping back into that guy.
Yeah. The one
So
that
it's
wants
the
to
work
do
you're doing.
right and
Exactly.
make the world better and get rid
So
of the bad guys.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the two of you together, I absolutely concur. And I'll tell you what, the
I
gift.
think our fates are intertwined somehow.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
really
I
think
do.
a big part, I would say a big ministry for him would be to teach self-defense skills and life-saving skills um, to to teenage boys and stuff, to young men, so that they can protect themselves.
Yeah.
That would be because it's natural to him. He then could use those natural gifts and abilities. I just think that would be a very powerful thing. Fathers and sons, what a great way. Like in the book of Malachi, it says that God will turn the hearts of the fathers to the sons and vice versa, lest he has to come and smite the land of, you know, the
Hmm.
he is the father's healing. So to be able to have um, fathers and sons come together and learn this, I don't know. That's just his background excites me and how that could be used in a very practical way. He's got all sorts of
Yeah.
survival skills, and he could take groups of, fathers and sons. He could take them up. Oh, and look how he likes to go off-roading.
Oh,
What
I
do you
know. And his
he
favorite
could
thing to do
do,
is go camping.
right? He could
Yeah.
do week intensive. You could do this as a ministry and make money. This could be a new business, but it's a ministry. And so he could take fathers and sons out, teach them survival skills, and then at night you have devotion. Just what a powerful thing that would be. And then
Yeah.
self-defense. That would be a
Yeah.
tremendous thing. I tell you
Did
what,
I ever tell you what he does right now for a living? Did I ever? He would.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, he thinks that's like like well, and it's a very important job. I
Oh,
mean,
it is.
imagine
It
the
is.
power goes out. So
He
many,
could be hands-on with all he knows. And
yeah.
what a draw. I'm telling you, Diana, um, to be able to say, fathers and sons, come away for a week, a life-changing week with
Uh-huh.
a
Uh-huh.
Green Beret who's going to teach, and he could have everybody read Tender Warrior.
Yeah, I had that playing, what was it, Friday that night when he came home. Dixie started going crazy and I had everything all set up. So I started it. And when he came in, he did listen to the first, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 minutes while he was greeting the dog and greeting me and getting settled, but then he went out into the garage and started having his beers, and he was fine.
But he
Um,
heard a little bit of it. He heard a little bit of it.
yeah, and it was the part where the guy was talking about why is this again, my battery is running out. Oh, hang on a second.
Yeah, yeah, that's
It's
okay.
telling me to plug in my computer. It's already plugged in.
Maybe there's a loose connection there.
Yeah. Okay, I think that got it, maybe. Come on.
Oh, I kind of got us off on a tip, but hopefully some of those verses were correct. But
Yeah.
Diane, the Lord has, I mean, the fact that you hung in there for 20 years and you're an amazing, and the Lord has preserved you. And so I want to confirm and concur that the dream that you just read off, um, it matches the degree that somebody is being tortured and going through hell, and the Lord will manifest himself in an equally intensive way.
Wow.
And so he has his hand upon you. And the work you're doing right now on this chart, I just want you to know it's groundbreaking. And so
Really? It just
oh,
seemed like the
100%. The depth that you're going into this will serve, and then the versions of it. That's also what's so beautiful because it can seem over. First of all, the idea is new for the majority of survivors, but
oh
this
yeah.
is the key way. So look at exactly what's happening for you. You're blazing the trail, and it's
Wow.
going to be such a powerful thing. I mean, what you're doing. This is just it's getting my creativity going. This is beautiful, honestly. That
Yeah, I mean the only reason I went into PowerPoint was because it allowed me to do the
yeah.
picture the way I wanted to. I couldn't do it on Word and I couldn't do it in Paint. But PowerPoint, I was like, oh great, this gives me freedom to do whatever I want, wherever I want.
Yeah, no, this is outstanding.
And then it dawned on me after, all those hours. I was like, well, I can add a page and each page can be a part and I'll
Outstanding.
do it from birth to whatever. So it's like the timeline and the map merge. The only difference though is it's not written by hand in a journal.
You know, it doesn't,
Which
with this is,
with Carrie Elahe, she's talking about how, having it be handwritten is more
well, no,
important
I think for
than.
this is going to be, this is outstanding.
Yeah, yeah, but I like the that I could just put so much detail in
Yeah,
here
no,
and
and more you will find, because really what you're doing, you're allowing the right brain to get in that flow state, and you have given an open invitation for all the parts to now start coming out. So you'll find out how many are, there's a finite amount,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
There is. So now it's just you getting to know you,
Well,
and
the thing that scares me is in the
yeah.
dream, it said that there was hundreds of people. I
Well,
didn't
you
know
know,
if those are my parts. That means I have
okay, that's
hundreds of parts. I'm like,
okay.
I'm only at
Well,
75 right now. I'm like, holy crap.
okay, well,
I
whoever's there, come forward, and everybody
I
has.
know, I know. So that
So,
kind of scared me when I was like, oh my God,
you know
hundreds?
what?
What?
I wouldn't even worry about it, right? Don't even think about a number. You're
Yeah.
just in that flow state. You're getting to know everybody.
Yeah.
Diane, I wish I have a client after the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Okay, when are
Yeah.
we meeting next? This is just intense. You got me going. Or Friday?
Friday.
Okay,
Friday.
wonderful, wonderful. You're doing an amazing job.
Well, thank you. Good. I'm glad. Yeah, I don't know. It's just happening. It's just
Okay.
happening. That force of nature that I can
All
do
right.
with physical stuff, it's happening in my head.
There you go. There you go.
So,
Well, are you okay if we keep going over this on Friday? Even
oh, of course. Yeah, it'll probably be me even more filled out. See, I only got to, where did I
man,
get
look
to?
at you.
I got to like number
Golly.
35.
We're gonna
And
have to
I'm
do
only at age 5. Isn't that
we're gonna have to
amazing?
we're,
35, I'm at age
man.
5. I'm like, are
You
you
know,
kidding me?
at some point in time we'll do a series together. How's that?
Okay, a series of what?
All of this, how to progress through treatment.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean,
Down the road. Just tuck that away.
yeah,
It's
yeah, I
phenomenal.
got to get my own channel going.
Your own
I
channel.
feel like I need to finish this first
There you
before
go.
I
There you go.
branch out there, but I've got it all set up and I even downloaded that software and
Oh, okay.
started looking at it and getting familiar with it. So
Well,
yeah,
let me
that
pray.
will happen, just not
Oh,
today.
yeah. No. Listen, it's
Yeah.
all you're on. You just it's a work in progress. But
Yeah.
this is beautiful.
All right, yeah, so that's what I'll do probably because Chris actually went to visit his brother and so I'm
What,
home.
what was where I'm from?
Oh, the east side, I think Chris said. I forget the name of the city. But yeah, his brother's up there.
Yeah, my family's out there. Huh.
Yeah, so there he's up there right now, so I
Okay, well,
can
you got some quiet going on.
yeah, and that's what I said. I mean, even when Chris was here, I was making the map over and over and over and over and changing it. Chris is like, "Is that a game you're playing?"
Look
I
at
said,
that.
"No, it's homework from John."
There you go. There you go. Well,
So,
Diana, let me pray. Let me
okay.
pray. I'm just excited. Lord, thank you. Thank you so much that Diana and I can work together. And Lord, thank you for, first of all, for preserving her and preserving everyone on the inside from what Satan meant it for evil. The purpose meant it for evil, but you are turning it around. And you have meant it for the saving of many. Lord, thank you that you've called Diana, you have your hand upon her. Continue to give her a sense of your presence and peace. Lord, as she is doing this, give her a sense of who's there and allow them to be able to communicate with Diana so that the map can continue to uh, really manifest itself. So thank you for her diligence to truth. Lord, we'll trust that as she's going through her own healing process, that you also have an important plan for her. So thank you so much for your commitment to us and to her in this process. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Father. All right, thank you. Well, you have a
Okay.
great day.
Well, thank you. I'm excited.
I'm gonna be, yeah,
Gonna work.
I'm gonna finish working on this. I think I'm gonna play a little bit, go buy some plants and
Oh, there
plant
you go.
them. And then I'll get back to the grindstone.
You're doing
So,
excellent work.
all right,
Okay.
cool. Have a great one. Thank
We'll talk
you.
Friday. Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye.